It's a blessing to be fearless. Like, it's a blessing to not fear anything and just know that every obstacle I'm faced with, I'm...
Hey, what's up, King Son? Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, Daddy. You putting in that work. Proud of you. I love you. Yeah.
For years, Milan Harris stayed silent. She didn't clap back when blogs painted her as Meek Mill's side chick. She didn't speak up when her pregnancy was revealed, and she never threw shade when the relationship ended and he moved on. Instead, she kept her focus tight, building her fashion brand and proving she wasn't chasing clout. But insiders say behind the smiles and photo ops, Milan was carrying something way heavier than just heartbreak. While the public saw her loving Meek, privately, she was allegedly learning about disturbing truths tied to the very machine fueling his success. People close to Milan claim that during Meek's rise, when his fame exploded and his legal troubles suddenly turned into political capital, she started hearing unsettling whispers, patterns she couldn't ignore. There were names being mentioned, alleged rituals floating around, and one phrase insiders say kept popping up: training sessions.
On the plane, coming here, because I do feel like, I think we gotta change the narrative.
Now, at first glance, that sounds harmless, right? Artists get trained every day. Vocal lessons, branding, media prep. But according to those in Milan's circle, this wasn't that at all. Training was code for something much darker. Something said to happen far away from cameras and press releases. It was described as a behind-closed-doors initiation process, not designed to build artists, but to break them. A system meant to test loyalty, blur boundaries, and keep control locked in tight, especially over women trying to climb the industry ladder. And Milan? Sources claim she allegedly found herself standing closer to those doors than she ever wanted, realizing the price of success might be higher and scarier than anyone dares to admit. Let's be clear. Milan has never claimed Meek took part in any of it. She hasn't accused him of doing anything directly, but insiders say what shook her was knowing he knew. They insist she couldn't ignore the fact that Meek wasn't some outsider. He was close enough to the rooms, close enough to the men who ran them, close enough to see more than he ever admitted. And if you think this is just another recycled Diddy rumor, think again. This had its own twisted layers. Now Milan isn't out here trying to blow up careers or burn the whole house down, but she also isn't biting her tongue anymore. According to whispers, she's finally ready to talk. Not for clout, not for revenge, but because she believes there are women still trapped in the same cycle, still being trained under the very system that once silenced her and turned her silence into its own form of protection.
I feel like we were in a struggle, but we didn't know that we were in a struggle. I feel like when you're in it, sometimes you don't understand until you get out of it. It was just what we knew.
Her entry into the music world wasn't the same as the others. Milan wasn't chasing studio time, begging for a feature, or trying to sign a deal. She was already somebody, a designer with her Milano di Rouge brand stamped across the streets, rocking on celebrities before she even crossed paths with Meek. That independence made her stand out from the typical women caught in the orbit of a rising rap star. She didn't need his fame to validate her. But once they connected, she stepped into his world. And with that, into an industry culture she never saw coming. It began quietly. One random night, one after party, one conversation she wasn't supposed to overhear. A so-called joke slipped out of a man in power about testing new artists. But it wasn't funny. The smirks that followed told her straight up, this wasn't about music at all. At first she brushed it off. Every industry has a dark side, right? But this didn't feel like just gossip. It felt like a warning. The longer Milan moved through those elite circles, the more she kept hearing that same phrase, training sessions. Nobody ever broke it down fully, but the way it was whispered, it didn't need spelling out. According to people close to her, Milan started piecing the truth together like a puzzle. Fragments here, fragments there, until the picture became too clear to ignore. One night, she ran into a young woman backstage, shaking, teary-eyed, clearly rattled, who admitted she'd been through it but shut down before saying more. Another time, a stylist quietly warned Milan, don't ever walk into certain rooms alone. And then came a moment that stuck with her most. Meek allegedly having a casual conversation with another artist, shrugging and saying, it's just part of the game. Nobody ever sat Milan down to explain the rules, but she's sharp, she connects dots quick. And the dots she connected painted a picture she couldn't unsee. What insiders claim she uncovered was chilling. These so-called sessions weren't just coercion. They were about control, leverage, power. Break someone early and they'll stay compliant forever. Put them in compromising positions, record it, and suddenly their silence is guaranteed. And the players involved? According to Whispers, it wasn't just random executives floating in the background. It was big names. Men who headline Billboard every year, producers with platinum plaques stacked high, artists who smile as mentors in public, but allegedly act as gatekeepers in private. Now, Milan has never accused Meek of dragging women into these rooms, but insiders say she believed he knew. Whether it was fear, self-preservation, or loyalty to the wrong crowd, he kept quiet. And for Milan, that silence spoke louder than words. It told her everything she needed to know about how deep this system runs.
My mom, she had my sister at 15. She dropped out of high school. She ended up going back and getting her GED, and she went to college to become a registered nurse. And I was telling my followers that because she made that sacrifice, it allowed me to dream.
Silence might have kept her safe, but Milan knew silence in the face of all this was still complicity. For a while, she played it smart, kept her head down, poured energy into her fashion brand, focused on her pregnancy. To the public, she was just Meek's girlfriend smiling in photos. But privately, she was learning how the industry really works, and just how much of it is built on fear, intimidation, and unspoken rules. The deeper she stepped into his world, the more those whispers stopped sounding like random rumors and started feeling like warnings meant directly for her. If you're on the outside, training sessions sounds harmless enough, like artist development, styling, maybe a little choreography or PR polish. But insiders say Milan figured out fast. That wasn't the truth. Behind closed doors, training allegedly had a whole different meaning. It wasn't about shaping talent. It was about testing obedience. It wasn't about skill. It was about compliance. And according to what she picked up from Whispers over the years, the test usually began the moment someone powerful showed interest in signing a fresh face. Here's how insiders described it. An artist gets invited to a so-called meeting after hours. No big stage, no huge crowd, just a small circle. Always at least one person with real power, and always just enough others around to make it feel normal. Drinks would be poured, the vibe would shift from business casual to suggestive before the newcomer even realized what was happening. And the initiation? That's where it turned sinister. For some, it allegedly meant being pushed, pressured, cornered into intimate encounters with people they barely even knew. It wasn't opportunity, it was entrapment. And Milan was piecing together how deep that trap really went. Sometimes it wasn't just one-on-one. Sometimes there were multiple people in the room. Others were allegedly forced to perform degrading acts, all under the excuse of breaking you in or testing if you can handle the lifestyle. And according to stories Milan picked up on, these sessions were almost always recorded. Not glossy studio footage, but shaky, grainy handheld clips. Footage that could be dragged out later if anyone ever dared step out of line. The unspoken message was loud and clear. You belong to us now. And the people running this weren't some faceless nobodies in the shadows. Allegedly, they were industry veterans, label execs, producers, and even familiar artists who act like mentors in public, but behind the curtain were playing the most sinister form of gatekeepers imaginable. And it wasn't always about the physical side of abuse. Sometimes it was all psychological. They'd make artists witness things they had no business seeing, forcing them to carry secrets like chains around their necks. Because once you've stood in a room where careers are traded like poker chips and human dignity gets treated like currency, you've only got two options: play along or vanish from the map completely. Look at MIA, for instance. Whispers claim she allegedly brushed up against some of this, and what happened? Her career suddenly flatlined, pushed into the shadows after she started speaking out too boldly. Now, Milan has never claimed she personally endured one of these sessions, but sources say she became hyper-aware of when they were happening nearby. She allegedly noticed women showing up to events glowing, excited, fresh-faced, and then just days later returning with hollow looks in their eyes. She watched young male artists who once spoke up in meetings suddenly transform overnight into obedient yes men, like all the fire in them had been snatched away. The scariest part? Once you were inside the system, there was no walking away clean. You might rise up and become a star, but every move came with a shadow. The knowledge that one wrong person could pull the plug or pull out footage at any moment. And during the years Milan was close to Meek, insiders say she allegedly saw enough to realize this wasn't just one label or one clique pulling strings. It was bigger, a whole network, tied together by a code. And for anyone who wanted in, the price wasn't raw talent. It was submission. From the outside, Milan's life looked like a straight-up win. She was running Milano di Rouge, turning it into a streetwear powerhouse. She was dating one of the hottest rappers in the world. Her brand was stamped on celebrities. Her following was climbing, and soon she was expecting a child. To the public eye, it looked like a fairy tale come up. But behind that glossy picture, there was another reality. And according to people close to her, Milan knew the dangers that came with even hinting at what she'd allegedly learned. Because these so-called training sessions weren't just ugly little secrets tucked away in back rooms. They were tied to a system run by people powerful enough to erase whoever crossed them. These weren't folks you could just call out. They had money, reach, and influence strong enough to make entire problems disappear. Careers could be shut down overnight, reputations shredded to pieces, and in the darkest cases, personal safety was on the line.
Plastic surgery. I'm not insecure because I would have got plastic surgery. People make it, they all can turn around and thank Beyonce because that's it. And enough is enough. I'm fucking coming for everyone now.
Milan had allegedly seen how fast someone could be erased from the industry's memory. One bad headline, one viral rumor, and you weren't just canceled, you were gone, like you never even existed. If Milan had spoken up while she was still in Meek's orbit, it would have been like pulling the pin on a grenade. Not only would she have risked her own future, but his too. Even if he wasn't directly tied to it, his connections to powerful figures meant her words could have blown everything sky high. And then came the personal side. Milan was pregnant. Her priority instantly shifted. Her son's safety came before everything else. That meant stability, not chaos. It meant staying away from drama, keeping her business running, and making sure nobody could twist her into the bitter ex or the loud troublemaker. Friends say she convinced herself silence was survival, that it was better to let it go, better to act like she hadn't seen anything, because once you became a target, the game could turn deadly fast. But the industry landscape started shifting. In recent years, more women have found the courage to speak out. Stories that once got brushed off as gossip are now front-page news. And after Diddy's arrest and release, the whispers around music and Hollywood circles got louder, harder to dismiss. From R&B singers to pop stars, the same eerie pattern kept showing up. Sudden fame, sudden disappearances, unexplained breakdowns, careers hushed with NDAs that buried the truth. And for Milan, those patterns felt too familiar. Different industries, different faces, but the same blueprint. She started noticing the exact language she once overheard being repeated by younger women on social media. Newcomers posting from studio sessions, flashing from parties, casually dropping words that she knew weren't innocent. To her, it sounded like history repeating itself. What finally pushed her to the edge, insiders claim, wasn't something done to her. It was watching these new women walk right into the same traps, seeing them get courted by the same powerful crowd, watching them glow with excitement while she recognized the setup for what it was. That hit different. And when you become a mother, everything changes. Suddenly, it's not just about protecting yourself, but protecting the next generation from the same cycle. Suddenly, the thought of somebody's daughter, or even her own child one day, stepping into those same rooms wasn't just troubling, it was unbearable. Milan hasn't stormed out swinging, she hasn't dropped names yet, but the way she's been speaking, careful, measured, deliberate, makes one thing crystal clear. She's not protecting this system forever. And here's what makes her alleged account even scarier. It doesn't sound like some one-off horror story. If you've been watching the industry long enough, you've seen this playbook unfold over and over. Fresh artists show up hungry, raw talent in their bones, big dreams in their eyes, and then just like that, they change. Overnight, some blow up with a hit single and vanish just as fast. Others stay, but something's gone. The spark, the edge. It's replaced with a dull compliance, like they're moving on autopilot. Think about it. Why did Britney's fears spiral out of control after her conservatorship snapped open? Why does Justin Bieber keep crashing under the weight of fame? Is Ariana Grande really gonna act like everything behind the scenes is picture perfect? And Kanye West, are we seriously still pretending his unraveling is just artistic eccentricity? People always brush it off, saying fame changes you. But what if fame isn't the only thing? What if it's something darker, something designed? For years, insiders have dropped hints about a shadow network, bigger than just music. Hip-hop, pop, R&B, even Hollywood. Executives, producers, power players who allegedly don't just open doors, they control who even gets near the hallway. You want the record deal? The movie role? That big sponsorship? Then you play the game, or at least that's how insiders describe it. And the game, according to what Milan's circle claims she uncovered, looked nothing like talent development. Instead, it allegedly meant coercive training sessions designed to test loyalty through humiliation, manipulation, and sometimes outright exploitation. The goal wasn't about creating stars, it was about keeping newcomers trapped, dependent, and forever under control. Because once someone's compromised, they're easier to manage. A career built on somebody else's terms is a career you'll never truly own. And this isn't just whispered conspiracy either. Look back at the past decade. Lawsuits have stacked up alleging sexual coercion in exchange for contracts, protection, or favors. Some of the industry's biggest moguls have been accused of hosting freak-off style parties. Young artists lured under one pretense and pressured into another. And almost every time, the accusations fade after a settlement check or get buried under ironclad NDAs. For Milan, her independence was her shield. She wasn't chasing a record deal, so she could move in and out of spaces without being a direct target. But that didn't mean she was blind. She allegedly saw how quickly the system closed in on those without her kind of freedom. The singers, too, broke to walk away. The producers desperate just to land one placement. The dancers doing whatever it took just to stay on tour. And every time the cycle repeated itself, opportunity dangled like bait until compliance became the cost. And this is where her connection to Meek matters. His rise wasn't just about hit records, it was tied to powerful labels, heavyweight cosigns, and a network stretching far beyond Philly. Being in his orbit put Milan close enough to see it all. The glamorous surface everyone clapped for, and the machinery grinding beneath it. Now, by speaking even cautiously, she's putting a spotlight on a culture that survives in the shadows. A culture branded as just the industry, where silence gets rewarded and one wrong step can end more than just a career. Whether her words spark a bigger conversation or get buried like so many before her, comes down to one thing. Are people ready to believe that the music they love was built on more than just beats and rhymes? Because if what she's suggesting is real, then training sessions aren't just rumors, they're the price of admission. So what do you think? Is Milan exposing the truth or just stirring whispers? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on the next one.